we can share it. Oh, they just announced it.
Wow, that was new and fancy.
So yeah, so we'll be recording this so we can share it with other folks in the network. I know that people are limited on time and have lots of meetings going on, so this way we'll be able to share it out. We are launching our first affinity group today, so we're very, very excited about it. We'll do quick introductions and then we'll get into the meat of it. My name is Amy Fors. I'm a consultant with the Jackson Collaborative Network. I've been with the network a long time, but I've been in this role just over a year. And I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Sarah. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
It's our tradition now at this
I know.
point. I am Sarah Williams, and I am also a collaborative consultant with the Jackson Collaborative Network. And I have not been working in Jackson as long as Amy, but I have been in the network role just about as long, and I enjoy doing this work with her. So I'm happy to be here with you all.
And then if we could go around and do quick introductions, just introduce yourself, maybe your organization, and maybe one quick line about what compelled you to join us today.
I'll start. I'm Lori Gustafson. I'm with the Community Health Department at Henry Ford Allegiance. And I'm especially interested in this topic for the relationship between the community and, our clinical medical providers, but then also within the substance use treatment and recovery system of increasing trust there.
Awesome. Good morning. Thanks, Lori.
I'll go. I'm Angie Guadagnini. I am the Community Resource Coordinator for the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm part of this group because there is a whole lot of distrust of DHHS for a variety of areas. So I am kind of collecting information today to bring back to our staff so we can have representative staff as part of this from our child welfare programs, as well as from our assistance payments programs.
Awesome. Thanks, Angie.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everybody. Chad Sirk from Lifeways Community Mental Health. I'm the Director of Communications and Outreach, and I apologize that my camera can't be on. It's been a long process, but I have an unstable connection. If I do come on, I'll be on for about a minute and a half, and then I will go bye-bye. So I apologize for that. And I'm here because, there is that trust issue with mental health in learning, any possible way to bridge that gap would be beneficial for our organization.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, Chad. And don't you hate it when your computer tells you you're unstable?
Oh, geez, it's been a debacle.
Well, we're happy you're here. Thanks.
I can go. I think what I'm hearing is we're introducing ourselves.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yep. Good morning, Sarah.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Benedetto. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Center for Family Health. And like others here, I'm here because we have worked and are working really hard to continue to make sure that patients and the community members feel that they can trust us as providers and to learn from others and each of you. But we know that in order for us to improve the health of our community and the individuals that we serve, we need to make sure that we have strong relationships and trusting relationships, not just with our patients, but also other providers in the community. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks, Sarah.
For anyone else just joining, we're just doing a quick introduction in your name, if you're affiliated with an agency, and then maybe a sentence of why you chose to join us today.
Okay. I'm Rhonda Farrell Butler with the Jackson District Library. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator and chose to be here today because number one, engagement is part of what we do. And in order to engage with our clientele, our community residents, and with our stakeholders, we have to make sure that they trust what we're doing and trust that we're going to provide services that are going to be beneficial. So honesty is real important to me. So that's me.
Excellent. Thanks, Rhonda. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you want to go, Tracy, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can go.
Okay.
I'm Tracy Fisher. I handle communications and community relations for the network.
Morning.
And my name's Adam Grant, and I'm the JARC coordinator at Home New Vision. And the main reason I'm here is because I understand a lot of why people don't trust the systems, because I don't completely trust the systems. And so I think my voice on both sides of that argument can be helpful. And I want to learn things that I don't already have some understanding of.
Excellent. Thanks.
Glad you're here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexa Burgai, and I'm the Data and Information Specialist for the Jackson Collaborative Network. And I'm mainly here because I am going to have a gigantic community report coming out, and I really need those to get into the hands of community members. So I'm here to listen and learn.
Thanks for being here. Anyone else? I see Zoe pop on. I'll just call you out because I see your face.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Zoe Lyons. I'm the director at the Department of Health and Human Services. And I think there are lots of spaces right now that we are trying to build up trust, because we know, we DHHS is the government. And so there's that whole just lack of trust of the government. I think some of you are going to roll your eyes at me, but we're vastly white people, and we're in this anti-racism world where we understand the mistrust of, people of color, of white systems. Chief of Police Director Hitt yesterday got this invitation and forwarded it to me and said, "Are you going to this?" And because we were just, the two of us spent 3 days in an academy together about building police and community trust. And so he couldn't come today, but I said, I'm gonna try to go and bring back. So there's just lots of areas that are intersecting, I think, in our community. The medical system, right, with COVID. And so lots of places of intersect that trust is an issue. And so anything I can learn, glean, or share is I'm excited about. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And I love that you talked about that, Zoe. I think we'll mention that later too, around, and almost all of you talked about different relationships of trust. The root cause that we are all gathered around today officially, right, is the trust between providers and the community members. But we know also, I think Sarah said, trust between providers, trust between different systems, trust between government and not, trust between whatever. So we'll figure this out as we go, but also what best supports the group, and if it ends up being different things, but the baseline being trust and how we improve relationships to increase trust. So thank you all for being here.
Okay, I think that should be everyone. All right, so we will move forward. If I can advance my slides. Okay, so how do we choose the group? We have what's called partner profiles in our information hub, and you'll see on the left side of the screen that there are 14 root causes, and this is a way to kind of gather what folks are doing in the community. So there is, I'm actually going to advance to the next slide. So there is a form where we can actually put it in the chat where you can go to your partner profile. You'll add your name, your email. You'll choose on that drop-down box under system change work what root cause you're looking to address. And then a brief summary, 1 to 2 sentences about what you're doing in the community to try to work toward that root cause. And then you're able to search the group so you can see folks' names, their agencies, and then which root causes they're looking to address, and then a little bit about their system change work. So that is how we came to our first affinity group, which we're calling them. And that was because the majority of those who had entered partner profile were around building trust in our communities. So we launched, today's the launch of our first group. It is related to trust. We will encourage you all to click on the link and or that you've seen in many of our newsletters. Click on that, and if you we're encouraging you to spread that to everybody you know. Anyone that's working in a community, doesn't have to be about trust. There are 14 root causes, and we'll kind of move on to those in just a minute. But put your name in, organization. As far as the root causes, we don't really want, I mean, we know that a lot of the work folks in our community are doing addresses many of these root causes. What we're looking to hone in on is what the priorities are. So if it's about navigating systems and building trust, like choose 2, maybe 3 that it's around. But like I said, there are many root causes that your work might be addressing, but we're best able to launch the next affinity group and bring folks together around that system change target if we kind of narrow them down a little bit. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this page also serves, and I will say this is repetitive for some people who have attended.
That's what I was just gonna say. So I
Oh, you
apologize
are.
for
We're on the
those
same
that,
page.
yeah, that we've been
We
here
are.
many times, but for some of the new folks.
Well, and also though, this is a public facing document, public facing page. So anyone could get on this page and see that Janelle with American One Credit Union is working on a root cause around service systems are difficult to navigate. And there are a couple sentences on what she's working on in the community. So, and her email. So there is a way for partners to connect with each other without involving people from the network or anyone else. If you want to reach out to Janelle to find out if she's had barriers around service systems are difficult to navigate. This is all public. And also it is something that is not static. So we've already had one person say, actually, I think I'd like to modify mine. So you just have to submit a new one and we can delete your old one. But this is, and like Amy said, it is an opportunity for us to say, well, we have 40 profiles that have been entered in, and 25 of them are talking about service systems are difficult to navigate. It sounds like people are really working on this in the community. So like, let's gather around. So this is all, that's the reason we're here today, is because we're listening to the data that you all are putting in.
Any questions on the partner profile page?
And thanks to Alexa, she did put the link in the chat. So if you, obviously not at this moment, because then you'd be distracted, but soon, if you, she did put the link in the chat for the direct link of how to enter your partner profile, which will help us to know what you're working on in the community.
Okay, so we're just going to review these a little bit. I won't go through all of them, but these are the 14 root causes, root cause priority or system change targets. These were developed by folks in our community for many years in the network, in the health improvement organization, the cradle to career organization, the financial stability. So for years, we did very detailed work in system scans, reaching out to communities to find out, or to individuals to find out, what are their barriers? What is causing them struggle to access services, to get help in our community, to meet basic needs? And what we found was that no matter what sector folks were working in, whether it was health or finance or education, when you really got down to the deeper root causes, it wasn't about mental health services or smoking cessation or mortgage, payments, things like that. There were deeper root causes. And then we themed all of those statements. There were hundreds and hundreds of statements that came from community members that said, well, I don't trust my provider, or I can't, I have trouble getting to grocery stores to feed my kids. When they boil down, these 14 of root cause priorities are what we themed them into and what emerged. So that's really kind of the basis. I know folks have asked, like, where did these come from? It was hundreds and hundreds of system scans. There were empathic interviews. There were surveys. There were community members had like whiteboards. There were, lots of different ways that we reached out. And then we themed them into these 14 root causes. And this is where our affinity groups will develop from. And as we said, the first one is going to be about trust. what we're gonna do is just take a moment, because when you do fill out your partner profile, we ask you to choose what you're working on in the community. So we're gonna do a little annotation. If you go to your screen and click on the annotate, which is the little pencil icon, you can bring down a screen, and then you can choose stamp. There's a checkbox that chooses stamp, and that will allow you to stamp right on our screen. And I'm going to ask individuals to stamp on the screen where you think your work, I know some of you guys already did this in your partner profiles, but where is your work kind of focused on? Oh, we've got some things here. Okay, so click on it. It can be any kind of stamp. It can be a heart. It can be a checkbox, and kind of take a quick minute to read through some of these. So if it's about service systems, navigating service systems, or people aren't able to meet their needs, communication, things like that. Let's take a quick minute to read through those. I know there's a lot on that screen. I apologize for that. And let's just see kind of where folks are at.
All right, tell me again how to stamp it.
So go to annotate, which is the pencil on the top, and then go down to stamp.
Sometimes there's like an options, or there's
Oh,
a.
got it. Yeah, thank you.
I don't have it yet. Where am I looking?
That's okay. So that you got it. Okay. There's also an undo, so you can undo it if you feel like you can stamp as many as you want, and you can also undo. I'm going to let you know too, the red box on the end of that, where it pulls up that stamp, there's a red X, and you want to click that, or we'll be stamping all the way through the presentation, which, as I've said before, might be kind of fun, but
When you're done, yeah, the X is helpful. It's interesting too, and we talked about this, but it's so hard, I think, a lot of times when we're doing work, to not think that it doesn't affect everything, right? Like it's, and also I noticed that we can see who is stamping what, and I feel like that is either an upgraded feature or a secret feature I didn't know about. But I see that multiple people, like a few people are choosing, right, quite a few different root causes. And I think that just goes to show, like, a lot of work doesn't just focus on this one thing. It tends to touch many root causes.
which is a great thing when we talk about doing work with systems and things like that, and changing systems. We want to pick strategies that will address multiple root causes. So that's exactly what we're looking to do.
I know I picked the wrong day to do this on my phone. It's a good thing that I've seen this a few days and remember where some of the stuff is.
That's right.
Can you tell if, can you tell if we're tagging any of these?
It'll come up, Rhonda. If you click on one, we'll be able to tell. And if you're struggling with the annotate, I know it's different, but you can also call it out if you feel like we haven't found things.
Yeah, because I don't know if this one is. Let me see. Did you see that?
Effective. Did you hit the communicate one?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't know. It's not going. Let me see.
That's all right. Sometimes I know the features are a little bit tricky, but also just trying to find creative ways to engage people.
Okay.
But Rhonda, do you feel comfortable sharing which one you wanted to click on?
Wait a minute. I think I got it. Hold on. Okay.
They are so interrelated.
They are. They really are, Zoe.
Yeah.
What, it was interesting too, when we were theming them with the shared measurement system group, it was very, very difficult statements could be one statement, and it would have multiple root causes that kind of branched from it. And so it was about meeting basic needs and not trusting the folks that they needed to, help them get to them. So one statement could go into 3 different boxes.
Okay.
And really, it's just about go ahead, Rhonda.
I said, I see stamp.
Yeah, I see your name, Rhonda. Yep. You're doing it. Yep.
Okay, should I shut this off now? Because should I exit out? Because everything is still up there.
If you are done stamping, you can hit the red X. Yes.
Okay, I'll wait till after I'm done because I don't think the other ones went through. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you hear an echo?
A little bit. It's not the end of the world.
Let me go. I'm in another room, so hold on.
Okay. I think it's interesting too, Zoe, to your point about how they're interrelated. And Amy and I have talked about this too, like how the affinity groups, like, you know, we're just starting out. We're going to see how they end up, but also that like people might be gathering around a thing because they think that people are not attending their services because they are not knowledgeable about them, right? Or like they don't know about them. But actually, like it could be that after we're in the group and we're like diving into data and doing all these things, that's actually not the root cause. Maybe there actually is like a stigma around something and they're not attending, or maybe it's both, or, you know, but like, I don't know, just we've had so many of these conversations on how they're interrelated, or like why aren't they knowledgeable? Is it because our middle class white folks are putting up flyers in the safe part of the neighborhood about the service system and are not actually like advertising equitably? Like, right. So like, what is the root cause there? Is it really like they're not knowledgeable? Is that a root cause? Or is that the policymakers and the people that are advertising have a lens, right? So anyway,
right.
like,
yeah, it's
Well,
all
and
of that makes sense.
that's going to be the crux of it, is really getting into, you know, that's our easy way out. Well, people don't know about my services, so they don't use my services. And so often it's a deeper thing. And that's going to be really critical when we're looking at community voice and really kind of reaching in and hearing what folks have to say and having them tell us what they need versus us deciding what they need. So
right.
That will be, that is a spoiler. Pretty much in every group, Amy and I will be like, well, how do you know? Have you gathered the data? Who have you talked to? How do you know? How do you know? Like,
right.
Our
and
favorite
even
line.
like when I'm sitting here looking at where to put my little hearts, it's kind of like what came first, and if you change this, will it change 3 of these other things, you know? So
you are also, that's also right.
Which is why they call them root causes, I suppose.
Yeah, right. Because if you involved more community members in the design of policies, probably there'd be more trust, right? Like,
And they would probably benefit the most vulnerable populations.
Likely. Man, we could be here all day.
We could. So yeah, so it looks like some of the top row, getting community members involved in the design of the services and policies. Services and policies are equitable and meet the most vulnerable population. What are some of the improved trust? Basic needs. Those are some of our higher ones.
Effectively communicating with community members.
What's interesting is they're not one root cause that people aren't working to address.
And we don't have like 100 people on the call, right? Like it shows that even with a small group, you got all of us together are working on something.
Any other thoughts? Anything people notice and want to share on?
No, I still didn't tag a lot of them too, because I'm still trying to do, like we've been talking about keeping it to a few.
Yeah.
Because sometimes with me, I know it's, if I'm doing too much, then I'm not doing enough. So this has kind of helped me kind of boil down to 4 basic root causes. And then I believe a lot of the things are going to stem off of. So
yeah. We've got baby steps here, Adam. We got to attack one thing at a time.
Well, that and the fact that we have desires to gather people around root causes and not to assume your schedule, but I would imagine it would be very difficult to be in groups, this many groups, right? And we've talked about in different meetings, maybe having different agency members or people that are working in similar spaces on different group, in different root cause groups, so that you're not overextending yourself and you're also really focusing your efforts on where you think it might be best.
Okay.
All right, well, let's try and move on. This is a tricky part. Everyone has to hit the red X if you haven't already. Otherwise, our presentation will be extra colorful. this is it. Like here, this is where we have the drum roll and the confetti that come out. It's very exciting. So this is the meeting. This is launching today. And it really came, just for those who don't know, the affinity groups and the partner profile they developed out of a need that network partners shared with us in many different spaces. You all have been looking for a way to move to action, how to gather together around a shared thing and to have spaces where you have a commonality of something. So we're excited to have both the affinity groups and the partner profiles in together. Oh, Adam, would you mind going on mute if you're not chatting? Thanks so much. So the groups are designed to help partners build capacity to drive system change action within your own organization that are in alignment with the network goals. So we hope that this will look different, right, than how the network used to be structured. It's not sector-based and it's not topic-based. It is root cause. And so you might have somebody that is in the health sector that is working on trust, and you might have someone like in banking, and you might have someone in foster care, and you might have someone in rehab services or whatever, all working on the same root cause. And the idea is, how are we coming together to equip and empower each other, and how to move the needle on these root cause priorities. So it's not just reporting out. It's not like, here's this thing I did 3 years ago and it's great, which it might be great, but it's also like, well, what are we doing right now? Maybe where are you stuck? How can Amy and I serve as facilitators and support people? How can we offer tools if they're needed? But really also, how can you support each other? Like if Rhonda is in the group and she says, I have been doing the bookmobile, but I'm really not having much success in this part of town. Maybe there's another person in this group who's like, oh, actually, I can tell you why that is. It's because of this thing. And the idea is just as much connection and holding each other accountable and holding each other and having a space together as it is like Amy and I helping facilitate and make sure to align them with the network goals.
And that, and Sarah, I appreciate that you talked about the difference, because folks said, okay, well, we're getting back together into the network and groups. Is this the same thing? Really, a big emphasis also is, rather than reporting out or just sitting in a group and talking about it and then going back to our 9-to-5 job, the goal is that each organization will bring the strategies that they're doing within the organization to the group to say, we're looking at improving trust by having a mentor program, or we're looking to improve trust in my organization, and we've initiated this particular policy change so that folks don't have to, jump through hoops. And then we'll build off each other. So, someone comes to the group and says, we've changed this policy because this was a barrier and people didn't trust us to do this. And then each organization will build strategies or bring strategies or develop strategies that will help move the needle on improving trust. So that's a little bit of different. That's what we, for many, many years, we sat in meetings and we talked about all these problems, and then we went back to work and we didn't do any organizational change. Okay.
So here's just a brief description of the group, keeping in mind that this is our first one. We modeled this after a national organization who has affinity groups with a similar design. They have a much larger audience, but we really liked the model that they used. So some of this is repetitive a little bit. The affinity group is designed to build capacity, support conversations, and move to action to improve trust between providers and community members, with an emphasis on those experiencing inequitable outcomes. So as always, we have an equity lens, and we will be talking about disaggregating data often. and how we know things to be true. It will focus on how to partner with community members and people with lived experience to better understand deeper root causes and explore strategies and interventions that organizations can implement to begin to address the issue or continue to address it. I mean, it's possible that many of you who are here because you are working on strategies around trust. And then just a quick note about how Amy and I are the consultants and our roles around supporting activities, facilitating connections, educating, sharing resources, and providing technical assistance. These groups also, some of you might know that Amy and I have different roles. We have a myriad of roles, and another one of them is also like a coaching one-on-one support role. So it could be that in the middle of an affinity group, you realize that you thought you were doing this thing, but actually you haven't, you're stuck somewhere and you could use a little bit of more targeted support. Amy and I are happy to help with that. We do that with quite a few different partners. And just a quick plug that all of your problems don't have to be solved today or in a group. We're happy to also help you if you need a little bit more targeted help.
And just to reiterate, that last line is that we don't have the answers. We don't know how to improve trust in the community. What we are going to do is try to bring folks together to have those rich discussions and to find out, like Sarah said, you know, how do you know? Let's disaggregate the data. What is telling you that they don't trust? Who is telling you that they don't trust? Kind of breaking it in and then helping facilitate the affinity groups and moving forward with strategy work in your organization.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, Amy. Yeah, just to like clarify, Amy and I are not here to like grade for right or wrong answers or pretend like we're not. So like, yeah, let's make sure we have that clear. We're for sure the facilitators and the holder of space. We're really good at asking provoking questions, provocative, one might even say, but like thought provoking, and like are really also very curious about the work you all are doing, how you can capitalize on each other's work. But we are also, we don't have the answers. We're in it with you. And so yes, thank you for clarifying.
But we aren't afraid to kind of get to the nitty gritty. We're not going to dance around. Well, I think that they just don't know about it now. Let's get a little bit deeper. Let's ask the right people and let's really kind of address these head on. What population isn't trusting and why, and let's go talk to them and kind of let's find out what they need, you know, to make things work. So.
And that was going to be a little bit my question. This is Chad. How do we as a group improve community trust without any community members in the room?
We don't. Absolutely don't. So
well,
that's going to be, we're going to move into that a little bit further, Chad, about who needs to be here, and community members are a key and critical thing. And whether or not they need to be in the room is actually up for question, but we need to have their voice in the room for sure.
Yeah, and no, I'm glad you said that. This group is also not like, what moves are we going to make as a group? It is about all of the work you all are doing, and Amy and I will be asking what strategies you're using that involve community voice. Because you all should be doing things in your organizations that together will move the needle. But it, like Amy said, whether or not, I mean, I do think we'll have some community members attend different groups, but the work that you're bringing to this group, the strategies you're bringing, is what you are doing in your organization to help build trust. And we will certainly ask that question around like, oh, you're working on this strategy. In what ways are you engaging authentic community voice as you're creating this strategy? And also, I know it's a little bit messy, but we'll get there. So this is the goals, Affinity Group participant goals. Hopefully, if you are a part of any of these, the Trust Affinity Group, we hope that you are gaining knowledge and skills to drive action on systems change enhancing partner connections and building upon ways partners have succeeded in improving trust, learning from each other, building trusting relationships with people with lived experience to elevate community power, understanding that communities know most to their health and well-being, and then tracking and measuring progress and adjusting as data develops. So these are things that we hope that you all gain, or the goals of being a participant in the group. And then we just have, this is very drafty because we just took this from another model. We did not, it's not super set in stone, but we did think that they were good places to start around, oh, and we did have a collaborative conversation where we had input as well from you all. That if you are, it would be helpful that if you join like the Trust Affinity Group and you've missed other meetings, it might be helpful to review a past meeting or a recording if it's available, to try and plan to attend most of the meetings offered, to contribute to meetings by asking questions, elevating ideas, coming with challenges you're looking to solve, bringing to the group strategies within your organization that align with building trust in the community, and then adhering to norms that the group sets. So this is really, also if people have huge objections, they can, speak up and say, no, that is out of line with my work. But we really have high hopes for these groups and being really valuable to each other because of what you all are going to bring. And with the idea that together, your strategies that you're working on in your organizations together will help our conversation and then help move the needle around improving trust. Did I miss anything? Should we stop for a minute?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and as this group moves forward, so we talked about this is the first time we're kind of putting this out there and saying, come and let's talk about what we can do to improve trust. This is your group, right? We're here to facilitate it, but this is the community group that will come together, and we want your input, and we want you to make adjustments as needed and input things as needed. If there are different expectations that you feel like need to be on here, type them in the chat, unmute, let us know. Throughout this whole gathering, we really want, this is your, like I said, your group that we're here to help facilitate and make connections and make sure that we're doing things authentically and with best practices, things like that. So
but you'll see here, it doesn't say make sure to let the group know about the best thing that your organization did 10 years ago, but it doesn't make sense now, or update the group on the next events for the 3 weeks. We're really trying hard to dive into the strategies that you're working on, you personally, that you have control over, and that you have control to move the needle that would contribute to trust. And we're hoping to create a space where you feel comfortable bringing challenges. And also maybe you're in the middle of something and you're stuck, or maybe you're working on something, but you're not sure it's the right fit. We really are looking, this is a group that will not be deciding the direction of, what am I trying to say? There will not be policies being made in the group, right? It really is about what you all are doing. You might be making policies on your own in your organizations, but how can we together encourage partnerships and accountability and not just reporting out?
Lori, you had a question?
Yeah. So in this, the question or the feedback kind of covers both the previous slide and this one. So one of our objectives was to learn. And so I'd be interested, in addition to just sharing experiences and, building off each other, to have either group members, you all of us perhaps bringing best practices that we can learn from. I feel like there's lots of things I'm trying to learn, and I run out of time to attend everything I'd like to do. So I would ask, is that kind of part of what we might do? Is there other communities that are doing things that are appearing to be successful that we might learn from?
Yes, I would imagine so. Like we will definitely, I think it has to take the direction where the group takes it. So if the group says we're really struggling with this particular population in this particular community, then I think that we can look at for sure other communities that are doing similar work, different models. And I also think that you'll find folks in this group that says at our particular organization, we actually did this and it worked really well. So both best practices and what has worked in our community, I think should both come to the table. Sarah?
Yeah, no, I think exactly to that point. And when it comes to like best practices or like highlight, like to me, because you all are working in different sectors and different whatever, Lori, if we're in a group and you're like, I am stuck in this place, I've done all the action planning process, but I'm stuck in like authentically engaging. We'll just make that up. I am stuck in this part here. There's a chance that someone else in the group might say that, or we might say like, actually, the group decides, right? Like, well, maybe it would be best if we could find out if there's another health department who has experienced something similar. That also might be, depending on your ask, that might be something that is more helpful, like on a one-on-one thing. But I guess it depends on the ask. The idea of this group is not to like bring in what other communities have done that have solved all of the trust problems. It is to start with what everyone is doing, their strategies around building trust. And if as a group, you get to the point where everyone is stuck, or like, then I feel like Amy and I can certainly serve as a resource and a place for like learning from other agencies, I guess, or other groups. But I don't think it's off the table, but I don't think that is where we would start either, if that helps.
Okay.
Thanks. Zoe, you had a question?
Yeah, question or comment or just maybe a little bit of a misunderstanding on my part, that now that I'm hearing it all makes sense, but the plan to attend most of the meeting beings offered is the one that I went, ugh, can I do that, to be honest? I mean, it's just
So many meetings.
So much. And especially as we head back into in person, and I guess that was one of the questions, are these going to continue to be virtual, or will we get to in person? Because I think
we'll get to in person, because
yeah,
I just don't
the
think this works
reality is
virtually.
that virtual does allow us to kind of get to more meetings, because that travel time is removed and all of that, though they're not the greatest way to come together, I believe. So I don't know, I'm just, and Angie is here from my office as well, but when you say, the things that you personally can move are going to be different for me than they are for Angie.
Yep.
And so, so yeah, I might just be talking out loud, I guess.
No, I love hearing that. That's the whole intent of this. I think two things. Hopefully we'll be going back in person, and probably with the virtual option as well. At least as we transition back into person, I can imagine that who can gather will gather, and then hopefully we'll be able to have a virtual option there as well. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but that's my dream. And as far as coming to all the meetings, we don't want to create more meetings. What we wanted to do is actually eliminate. We had so many meetings in the old model, and that's not the ideal. What I imagine, and this may change, and folks may have different ideas on this, is that Zoe, you might not be able to come to them all, but as Angie comes to them, you'll support her in the work that she's doing around this important cause, right? So you have a little bit about idea about what we're working on and how important it is that every organization is contributing to this root cause. And so you might have Angie that comes to the group about trust, and you might have another person in your organization that comes to the one about service systems are difficult to navigate. You might have multiple people at different root causes. The ideal is that then with your buy-in, they will be able to come back and say, listen, folks at this organization have implemented or have changed their policy to allow folks to really get access to services. And that's where you give the nod. So you personally don't have to be at all of them, but kind of giving that nod of, yes, this is good work, this is important work, and I have someone that's doing, navigating services and someone that's about building trust. I think that's really the key. So personally, I don't think you need to be there, but what we're asking is that folks are promoting those that are doing work in system change, because you all know that that's kind of the critical way to change the way we're working in our community. That makes sense?
I'm also looking at this as a short-term commitment, that this is a pressing topic for us right now. And if I can participate all in for a certain period of time till we feel like we're on track with this or have a direction that we're going to take, I think at that point for me, the meetings aren't as important as implementing the things that we've, chosen to do. So.
And it's up to the group, right? The group might decide we only have to come together quarterly. That's plenty for us. We are going to do a lot of the work. We're going to submit our strategies. We're going to communicate via email. We'll probably utilize a network hub to be able to kind of track and follow some of the strategies that people have implemented or shared. So that's up to the group. If it's too many meetings, if it's too much commitment, then we will redesign in a way that benefits the folks in the group. And so it might be quarterly, might be maybe to start out. I'm guessing to start out, it'll probably be monthly, just as we kind of get our feet dug into the work, and then we'll change as we think is needed.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, Amy, because I was going to say the same. Amy and I are not deciding that like you all have to come every time and you're going to get a red X by your name if you don't come. This really is a value piece, because if you come month one with your strategies and you're like, okay, I've got it, I'll see you next month. Joe, I'm going to email you in the meantime. Like the intent is that it adds value to what you're doing, so that when you all come together again the next month, you can say, oh, and Lori, I know you were working on this thing. How did it go for you? Did you have any challenges? So that we can move together as a group. Believe me, this is better language than Amy and I's. Like the model we had was like, come to everyone or else, or something like that. And
we changed to most.
We did. So we're not, we know schedules, and we know, and this is not like you have to attend. It really is like, it's a best practice thing. If you don't come for 4 months and then come, we hope that you still find value, but we would want to believe that if you try to attend most of them, there might be other things that are being offered or shared that could be valuable. And that is why that is there.
And if it's not valuable, then let us know why, because this is like, we're making this kind of pulling this together to help enhance connections and to help, support system change work. But if it's not working, we don't want to do it. We don't want to meet just to meet. We want to meet so that we can move to action to actually change some of the things in our system that aren't working.
Exactly.
Any other questions, thoughts? Okay, so this next slide, what do we know about lack of trust in our community? So this is really focused around defining what we mean by lack of trust. We don't want to kind of jump into this arena until we really understand what we mean. We actually talked about that a little bit at the beginning when folks did introductions, but I just kind of want to give the group a minute to either type in the chat or unmute to say, like, why is this important? Why is this an important root cause, which we did a little bit. But what is it we know about lack of trust in our community? I think we can't start movement in a group until we kind of have a basis for, like, y'all came here because it's a trust thing. Are there scenarios or policies or things I think we, that are in your organizations that we know, like define lack of trust. I know when we did our collaborative conversation last month, that was one of the things that y'all requested is how are we defining lack of trust in our community? So I don't know if y'all had thoughts on what you would define lack of trust is, or I don't know if you want to type in the chat or unmute. And I can actually move on to the next. So these, I don't want to preface anyone's thoughts, but these are some system scan statements that actually community members in our community actually came right out and said. So we talked a little bit earlier about how we came to our root causes, and we talked about people made statements and then we themed them. These are some of the statements that were themed into lack of trust in our community.
So, do you want us to talk now?
Yes, I want to get your ideas around where this is going. I mean, this is, like I keep saying, this is not my group.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk and then I'm going to lean out because I have said too much already. When in our so some of it for me, like immediately comes to systemic racism.
Yep.
And it's not just people of color, but people in marginalized and oppressed groups. And so there's that intersectionality that occurs with in our anti-racism work. In one of the sessions, we do this borderlands exercise. So you talk about like the people in the middle and then the people all around it. And it really, to me, it really comes down to that. Like there's these people in the middle who are the, typically in our world, they're going to be the policymakers, right? So they're the white middle class, all that. And then there's everyone else on the outside. And it people of color, people living in poverty, LGBTQIA, and all those intersectionality pieces. And so to me, it really comes down to that, like that systemic racism and the marginalized and oppressed groups and how we have treated them historically. And so when I looked at the root cause piece, it was like, some of it was related to community members not having access or not having money or not having, and I just, for me, I feel like we need to flip that. Like I feel like it's us that need the work. And as we do our work and become more empathetic and understanding and change how we communicate, like some of that other stuff is going to come with that. So, and I'm going to lean out now.
No, I agree. When you referred back to the root causes, you mean the 14? Yes. And it is really equity and anti-racism efforts should be intertwined through every single thing that we do, because really that is kind of the ultimate root cause, right? So we kind of talked about developing one around anti-racism or racism as a root cause, but really it is the underlying kind of piece that affects every one of those. So in all of the work that we do, everything should be with the intention of integrating how are we being anti-racist in this policy? How are we being anti-racist in the way that we're navigating services? How are we being anti-racist in the way that we are, advertising for our services? It really should be kind of upholding it throughout. So yeah, it's a great comment.
Zoe, and I will say also quickly that I appreciated your comment as well, because personally, I'm like a social worker. I have used languages to describe communities that do not reflect the oppressor, right? And so I just want to acknowledge that I really appreciate your comment around language mattering. And I am also doing my best to I think we had a community call and Maisha was on and she was describing them as disenfranchised populations. So I'm trying to, and I thought that was really well described. And so, and I've seen it in different places around, well, is the root cause here actually that people don't know about services, or like how I described earlier? Or is it that as people who have been advertising without authentic voice and with a lens and without an anti-racist lens, they're not, there's no equity involved. So anyway, I just want to acknowledge that your point about language matters. And even if we gather around root causes that are labeled as something, I think having that lens and that conversation is important.
Can I inject something in here too?
Please.
Absolutely.
I'm sitting here on the Capitol lawn right now for an event that has to do with ending solitary confinement. And this to me is kind of like the epitome of some of the things that we're doing. And one of the reasons people don't trust us is because when we have some kind of a call for high school sports, or when we have a call to stop the oppression of wearing masks and stuff like that, you've got people all around here, and I'm going to pan out a little bit. You've got people all around here that clog up the streets and everything. And when we do something on an issue like this, where we're talking about ending solitary confinement and things that affect the communities that we're talking about, this is the number of people we have showing up for these events. And so one of the reasons I'm taking part in these meetings is for the very reason that I want to learn more, but I also want to keep reiterating the fact that we have to show up. You have to show that you care about these things. It's not merely a matter of policies, and policies are never going to fully change until everybody starts showing up. They've got a booth here that mimics segregation. I've been in segregation, so I know what one looks like. But for people to sit here and look at something like this and understand that I know people who have lived in these size cells for years. And so when they come back out to their community, and so many parts of their community are directly affected by this stuff, you can't just tell them, we're going to take care of you. You have to show them that you are there with them, that they are you. It's no longer a they, it's no longer an us. We have to all become one collective us. So I'll get off my soapbox for the moment, but this is just kind of disappointing. And this is kind of the norm is disappointment in this region. So
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing that. I wanted to just highlight the chat for a minute. Rhonda has entered a couple comments, and I'm happy to read them, or I don't know if you'd like to go off mute and share your thoughts. Rhonda, I can't remember if you're having audio issues or not, but I'll give you a second. I don't want to talk for you if you'd like to talk.
Was there a specific one that you wanted me to elaborate on?
Whichever you're comfortable with. I saw that you had entered in that not feeling comfortable with sharing concerns. You're afraid that people will talk about me instead of helping me with the issue.
Yeah.
Is that something that is or if you feel comfortable sharing, a personal experience, or people have said this to you about trust?
People have said it to me, and then me as an African-American, female, and sometimes the only one that may be in the room. Sometimes I feel that there's this preconceived attitude, even though people claim that it's not there, but you know it's there. And so it's not just me, but it's also other people who may not have been exposed to different environments like I have. But then there's people who may think that I have not been exposed to different environments, just because that's how people think. So we don't take time to look at people for who they are in front of us. Too many times people have these preconceived attitudes that, oh, they're involved here, so this is already an issue. And that may not be even the case of what they're coming to you about. So I think that we just have to be more intentional about recognizing how we approach people, or how open we are when people approach us. Because when there's not trust, people know when you're phony. They know when you're not right.
Thanks for sharing. Sounds like you and Adam both highlight the importance of showing up and being genuine. And I appreciate both of those things. I see a couple other comments in the chat. Does anyone else want to speak on this, or I can read comments from the chat?
I can share briefly. As we've been trying to understand the needs of the community and build trust, it comes up that there are things that are really old, that have been ingrained for a long time, and those are hard to overcome. We may, see what's on the surface, but we're missing, hurt and resentment that's been there a long time. And I think sometimes that's not going to be easily overcome. And it's a matter of hanging in there, taking the time to build it.
Thanks for sharing that, Laura. I was going to say, is that also in reference to, so like building trust? So hurt and resentment have been around for a long time, just so I am understanding correctly, right? And then what to do about that, or how to operate in that environment.
I was going to add something similar to what Lori just said, and to you as well, Sarah, is that I think sometimes we feel like, well, we did that one thing, so it should be fixed. Why aren't people, I did this, so therefore you should trust me now. And I think we don't always, we also want a quick fix, right, as humans oftentimes, but I think we have to be patient, and trust builds over time, whether you're in a personal situation or whether you're working with community members with the service that you're providing. So that's the piece I wanted to just add on to what others have said, and I agree with what others have said as well.
Great insight. Thanks for sharing.
Who was just speaking?
Sarah with
Sarah Benedetto. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say, Sarah, I think you brought up a good point, is that a lot of times we think that when we've proven ourselves, we think we've proven ourselves one time, then it should be okay. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It takes time to build trust. And a lot of times we want it to be, okay, I did this. I've already showed that I'm trustworthy. I've already made this action. I've been open. But we have to understand that everybody is at a different stage in their life and their experiences are different. So it may take me just a couple of times for you to show me your trust. But someone else, depending on their experiences, it may take over a year. Yeah. So those situations and what we do each time we meet with the individual is so important. It's very important. And once you have already set up mistrust, it's very hard to remove that. And that's not even with people who are marginal. That's just everyday life. Right. We look at ourselves, and so many times we should look at us and try to understand, okay, if I'm feeling like this, then I know that this individual who's not familiar is feeling like this. So we just have to put ourselves in other individuals' spaces and remember that it's not based on what we're able to accomplish, but it's what they have experienced that's going to help them to accomplish. And I'll be quiet because I'm talking too much.
No, I love hearing voices.
Yeah. I also think you made me think of something else, Rhonda. This is Sarah again, that I think oftentimes as humans, we also are thinking internally and, oh, look what we did. Look what I did. I'm going to publish what I did on social media and those things kind of go hand in hand because you're thinking, well, I did these things. you know, it's about me, and it's really not. It's, if you're really all in, it's about that individual that you're working with. Not to say that you can't learn from it and grow, and that you want to say, you know, but I think sometimes we focus too much on that and not the person that we're actually trying to get.
You're right. When the gentleman was speaking, who's down in Lansing, I think I brought that up, and he was comparing students playing sports and the parents being there, and, you know, and then he's looking at what he's trying to promote. But we are in a world where people think about me, myself, and mine. And until we are able to search ourselves and understand that it's not always about us, then we can move along further. But until that, we're where we are.
But along those same lines, I think it's important to understand that just because somebody doesn't agree with something doesn't make them a me, myself, and I, or, you know, anything like that. There are going to be issues. There are going to be things where people just don't agree with them. So the lack of attendance at the Capitol could be very much because the majority of the people believe that we should have segregation in cells, and that there's a reason for that. I don't know the issues of it or anything because I haven't studied it, but you've got a population out there that believes that, and that might be why they're not there. So, you know, I think we need to also understand that side also. I think the greatest one that we've seen, you know, recently is the legalization of marijuana, and just how both sides were so divided on that. But then, you know, it doesn't make the other side a bad person, is, you know, I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Oh, I totally agree with you. If we all thought the same, we would be really in a mixed up world. But I think it's how we react that is the issue, and how we want other people to react towards what we believe in. That's where the problem lies. I may have an issue that people are fighting about. No, I don't care about it. I mean, I'm not in favor of it, but I'm not one to, it's not an issue where I feel like I have to go out and say that or create extra dissension. It's just that that's my opinion. So, but a lot of times we don't respect each other's opinion. I guess respect is my word. I think, yeah, let's respect. We don't teach it to our children anymore. We don't, you know.
I'm actually just started reading this leadership book, and I can't even think of the name of it, but it's from the Arbinger Institute. Some of you may be familiar with it. And the very first section of it, which I'm only 50 pages in, so is talking about the inside the box and outside the box, and how you're representing yourself. And are you in it for the person? Are you viewing the person that you're working with when you're giving a hard message or a message that might be in conflict? Are you treating them as a person, or are you treating them as an object? And it kind of gets to what you're talking about. We all have to communicate things that aren't necessarily things that people want to hear.
Right.
And you can't gain their trust if you do it in a way that does not reflect that you think of them as a person. Getting back to, if you're sincere, or you're not sincere, people can see through that, even if your words speak one thing, but your actions and your tone of voice and all of those other things aren't treating them as a person.
Yeah, I love this conversation.
I do
was
too.
gonna
I'm
say,
like, keep talking.
I know. I have and I'll say, as we're talking about like trust and building authentic relationships, and people being able to tell if you're genuine or not, I just can't help but think how so many of us, so I'll speak even personally for me, like some of our jobs or whatever are like time limited, right? So like I might have a year of funding to get these outcomes done. I also know that building relationships is the key to success. I know that as a human and as a leader, like that is how I want to be. And also, like sometimes I feel like, which is also a bigger issue around funding and systems, et cetera. But the truth is that, like when Rhonda was talking about different people have different levels of like, we might meet and you might trust me right away, or you actually, and then to add in the part of like, if I am a medical from the medical community and I'm trying to build trust with like someone, possibly even, I won't speak for all, right? But like there's a trust between many Black community members because the white medical system has oppressed them and failed them and harmed them. So like my trust level might take a year or more or never. So like those thoughts are in my head too, of like, how do we do good work in a time limited manner? Maybe like my job says like, hurry up, not my job, right? But like if my job said you have a year for these outcomes, hurry up and do this thing, but I'm also trying to build authentic relationships and I really do care. Like to me, that there's truthfully, that feels like a tension piece for me.
Any other thoughts before we move on? I know we only have about 15 minutes and we want to get some more
Oh my
input from
gosh.
you all. I know.
How did that happen?
Rich conversation, but it's the authentic conversations. And I echo all of what you said. And I love the conversations because Rhonda talking about, relationships, and Sarah talking about looking at people as a person versus an object. And I think that all kind of speaks to what Zoe talked about, is that underlying often Black and brown folks in our community have been looked at as less than a valuable individual, and people in poverty and LGBTQ plus communities. And so I think that is going to be one of the keys, is to treating each individual as a valuable individual and a valuable person in our community. So, okay, let's move forward a little bit. Naming the group. So we have a Padlet activity. We'll have a link to this Padlet in the chat. I'm sure that Alexa has that in there already. So if you copy the link in the chat, you can go to a page where it's kind of like a whiteboard concept. Sarah, do you want to take this away?
I will, yeah. So these are just, we would like to name the group something that represents the group, what the goal is, something that is maybe strengths based. If you click on the link, I don't know if you're also sharing. You're not. You are. Yes, you are. You'll see at the top, the root cause is like, that's the goal, is to improve trust. So if you double click anywhere on the screen, you will be able to add your own comment. So I'm going to double click and you should be able to see and it's real time, and it's also anonymous. So these are some ideas of what you all think, because we don't want to like name it for you. We want buy-in, and we want your input and what you think would be a great group name that will be the name of the Affinity Group as we move forward. There is a rating system here. This person maybe thinks that Building Trust for the Win should get 3 stars. So you can also rate them. And this is not, oops, sorry, I have a lawnmower nearby. It's not just a one-time thing. The link is active. So if you think of something after the meeting, you're welcome to enter it as well. But we also didn't want to just name a thing and decide for you all. We wanted your input and your thoughts and a starting place. And then maybe next month, like as we continue to meet, continue to gather, we will have the group named. Does that make sense to everyone? I know it's like a thing.
So yeah, if you're not thinking, you can't think it through today and you think of something tomorrow, like really it should be focused on this and I want this in the name, go back to the Padlet. We'll actually share it after I'm in our follow-up email, and you can go back to it and continue to add to it. It's a living document. So we just want to make sure that you all are building your group and having input. So
And when you type in erase, it doesn't erase.
It does not erase.
I erased mine and it's still sitting there.
Sarah, you muted.
Oh, sorry. I think you have to, so if you hover over the box that you typed, there's like a pencil to edit and a trash can to delete.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
But now we know which one you
Right.
Just kidding, not to call you
It
out.
is literally real time. Like every letter shows up.
I know. Amy and I learned that the hard way.
We
We're like,
did
oh my
learn that
gosh,
the
you can see
We
me.
were practicing. It does edit out curse words though, just so you know.
No, it doesn't actually. Don't tell them that because I forgot to put the filter on.
Oh,
So no one
curse
type
words.
any swear words.
Okay.
Put it in, add it in. Oh, should we put it in the chat? I
And
mixed
you can
up.
add it to the chat if the Padlet's not working well for you as well. So feel free to do that.
I missed that part, so I don't know what happened.
I think you can double click anywhere on the screen, but also no pressure. You can also like email us later. You can say, hey, I have a good idea, or hey, I liked this idea you had, or maybe it will come to you later. But these are just things we're thinking about too, because as we move forward, we want like a strong name for the group.
We're trying to be as interactive as possible in this virtual world because it's hard to get input. I know it's really difficult to try to unmute and get in and get a word in. And so this is our way of getting input.
Also true.
Okay.
Alexa, would you mind Rhonda put a suggestion in the chat. Would you mind putting it in the Padlet for us?
Yep, I can do that.
Thanks so much. Alexa is a great support person. So these are some next things. I realize we are like 10 minutes to go. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me. All I hear is a lawnmower. Okay.
No worries.
Okay. So these are some things to be thinking about as we move forward and continue to meet. I know Chad talked about this earlier around, are we involving all of the right people? So just as like a group norm, Amy and I will not like together decide that, oh, we're missing Jill from over in the community center. We need to make sure that she attends this. We're kind of going to trust that the group members, like you all, are saying, actually, I know this person. So for example, if Zoe's like, this doesn't make, the most sense for me to attend every time, but I do know that I have 2 people that really should be here. Or if you're like, actually, I know this person who's been doing really good work in the community around trust. We are happy to facilitate a conversation. Like Amy and I can say, oh, well, are all of the people here that should be here when it comes to strategies in the community that are addressing trust, that you all are helping with that. And again, it's not necessarily that we need all of the residents that are experiencing mistrust at our meeting, because our questions are going to be to you. So like I might say, okay, Angie, what strategies are you working on to address trust? And you might say, oh, I'm working on these 3 things, but I actually haven't asked residents directly, so like that will be the question. Like, do residents need to be in this group or should they be in your strategies? So this is just yep. Great.
Oh, are you ready to move on?
I would say, why don't we like, do you want to, I feel like we should just maybe skip this and have this be in like next steps.
Let's actually put it in the chat and then you guys can copy and paste, and on your own time, you're welcome to, we encourage you and ask you to type into this Padlet, which is a little bit different, who needs to be part of this group. So if I'm guessing you sat through this meeting going, oh, Jim's, so-and-so down at this organization, like Sarah said, is doing great work around trust. I want them at the table because they have a strategy that they changed this policy in their organization to, whatever. So if Alexa, I'm assuming you put that in the chat, and copy and paste that. And it's like we said, it's a live document. If tomorrow afternoon you meet somebody on the street and you feel like they're really doing great with trust, or they have strategies, or they need strategies. Write it in the Padlet so we can really make sure that we're doing outreach to the right people. And I encourage you all to just do that naturally, right? So we'll announce the next meeting, but you all have great connections and great relationships in our community. So reach out to the people that need to be at the table. And that would be really helpful, right?
I also, as we've walked through this and really identified the focus of the group, I also don't think it's necessary to have a bunch of people at the table, because
Right.
it's what are we doing in our little spheres? And we don't want to pressure folks to have to now sit at all the root cause tables.
Right. No,
And
I agree.
so
Yeah.
I think also, if this is all there is, this is enough, because we're the ones that initially said this is where we want to focus our energies. And there may be some people that haven't heard and that you
Right.
know might want to participate, but I feel like it's okay to just have us be
Absolutely.
focused on what we're doing, and then engaging the folks that are specific to our areas of need.
Yeah, it's not about numbers. It's about people who have a passion for this, and the people that are intent on doing system change work in the organization around this. So we don't really want a bunch of people at the table that are like, oh, that's a really good thing to be working on. It's the intent of this is to be actionable, right? We want to take action. We want to change systems. And if we're here to chit chat, that's like, we want to build strategies, and we want to build on each other's successes and failures. So great point, Lori. It's not about numbers. It's about people who are passionate about this in our community. And I do think, like you said, there are people that can input. I think people don't know about the partner profile page. We're only pulling from one very small thing with that partner profile page. So we only know if there's 30 people in there and 5 pick trust, that's who we're reaching out to specifically. Obviously, we opened it up to any network partners. But yeah, great point.
I think another thing that I have done, because I haven't completed mine yet, but I have also my profile sheet. I am sharing it with my director, because I think that brings in our total organization. Even though I'm the one here at the table, I have worked with her to see what works, and there may be times that somebody else may come instead of me, but at least our profile is the same.
Well, actually, and Rhonda, I would encourage you to do different profiles, because in your for the library, you might be working on like making sure that there aren't barriers and people are utilizing your services. Someone else might be focused on advertising. Someone else might be focused. So your profile should reflect the work that you specifically are doing. Like, and the library can have 8 different profiles if you have 8 individuals working in different directions. So I would encourage folks to, when you're doing your profile, it's about kind of you and the work that you're doing specifically, rather than an overreaching thing. Like I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. Folks in the same organizations are doing very different work with very different focus. So, so we can do individuals.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just a little bit back to the process, right? This is back to moving to action and making the action that you're doing meaningful, right? So this is where Sarah and we talked a little bit earlier about how we can step in and help, but you'll see engagement is like the core of everything that we're doing. It's right in the center. And there's arrows in it. There should be arrows in and out, actually, not just out, to each step of this. But this is where we're going to be asking the questions and provoking like the serious kind of like, okay, what does the data say? The data says that 60% don't trust the people on their front lines of my organization. And like disaggregate that data, what people and where do they live and what color their skin, and kind of getting into that, who's our target population, and then asking the whys. Well, why don't they trust you? Well, why is there an issue? Well, why do they have historic, feelings of oppression, or, from your organization or whatever. And then we'll help look at strategies. So rather than we're kind of hopefully get a little bit nitty gritty into like, well, we're going to try to make open doors for all. Let's strengthen that up a little bit. Let's make sure that they're intentional. So this is kind of, we always move back to the process of making sure that it's changing the system and that it's actionable. And any other thoughts on that?
No, we can, and obviously we can, I know we're kind of wrapping up, but we will talk about the action planning process again, especially as we start to talk about the different strategies you all are working on. And this is where Amy and I really can help support you through the process and through designing strategies and through implementing them. And sometimes it feels overwhelming, and like that's what we're here to help with. So this is like going to be what we're thinking about for our next meeting. We talked a little bit already around like what is currently, we talked about trust and like the thoughts about trust, right? But I think the next time we meet, we'll talk about what strategies are you working on around trust? And I know, Angie, you mentioned like there might be a couple people you know who are doing some work around trust. And it doesn't have to, right? The strategy doesn't have to say, I am building trust with blah, 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 but maybe there's a strategy and it is really getting to trust. So we're hoping that people come and bring strategies and we can start talking about that, including like how we measure it. Yes, our next meeting for this group will be July 21st at 10 a.m. We will send you a link and a reminder following this meeting. So this is like prior to the next meeting, be thinking about the strategies you are working on, be thinking about who is missing. Granted, this is a small group and also it's the first one. So we are looking forward to growth and whatever that looks like, adapting. And then what we have planned for the next meeting around what would be the norms for the group. We heard some feedback around, oh, I don't know about meeting, you know, frequency of meetings, et cetera. All of that we are hoping to talk about at the next meeting, and to hear some different ways to engage community voice from your experience, and also maybe some ways that are lacking, like we want to talk about it all. And then this is our announcement that we have another affinity group launching, and this will be around service systems are difficult to navigate. So again, when people filled out their profile, partner profile, and when frankly, so many community discussions we've had, this seems to be bubbling to the top around service systems are difficult to navigate. And just to kind of touch back on earlier conversation, like, well, why is that? You know, is it because they can't navigate them? Is it because people in power are like making it confusing, right? So anyway, this piece, I feel like could be, a lot of people have commented that they are working on this issue. So we are gathering July 13th at 12 o'clock. You will also receive information about that. And I encourage you, if you know someone in your organization or in the community that's working on this, to invite them to forward the information on, and we look forward to having that conversation. The structure will look similar to today, except the topic will be different.
And these are just a couple of upcoming meetings that we've got. We've got an action planning workshop on June 21st. So if you want to do some individual action planning, I know some folks on the call have already done it. We can kind of get into like, what's your problem statement? How do you know? Building strategies, looking at measures, things like that. So that's really some more personalized coaching. And then June 24th, Sarah and I are going to be hanging out on a Zoom and open to chit chat. So if folks have questions about what it is we do, or why are we doing it, or I don't get the new, the way that it's, you know, set up, or I actually have a question about one little piece, we're going to be hanging out, chit chatting, super casual. You can get on for 2 minutes, ask a question and get off at any point. But we're going to be hanging out because I know there's a lot of questions, and I know that there's a lack of connection, I feel like sometimes when we're in a virtual world. So we're going to hang out and we can just talk about the weather too, if that's of interest. So that's upcoming. So yeah, we'll be following up with a survey link, as well as probably a link to the Padlet of who else needs to be in, or if you've got name ideas. We want your input. We value it, and this is your group, and we can only move forward with the direction that you guys need it to go. So please fill out the survey. Feel free to email us at any point with questions, concerns, problems, difficulties, compliments, you know, whatever works.
Well, thank you all for your time today. It was like such a lovely, rich discussion, and I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I don't want to keep you over. All right. Thanks, folks.
Thanks so much.